What have we just witnessed?
Leave, Murph. Don't let me leave, Murph. No! No! No!
Russell wins the Canadian Grand Prix, becoming the 4th Grand Prix winner this season. Hulkenberg gets back-to-back points in a Sauber, now up to 20 points to his name. Antonelli gets his first podium in F1. More Williams woes after a terrible Spanish Grand Prix, and now Canada just didn't work out for them as well. And we finally had a collision between the McLaren boys. Pain. So much pain. And you know what? I'm not even going to talk about F1 Fantasy until later till the video, because otherwise I will go on a rant for about 5-10 minutes about how painful that was. But hey, let's go through the entire Canadian Grand Prix weekend, and let's go have a look at the best moments throughout the entire weekend. Yeah, these absolutely sucked this weekend for figuring out what the hell was going to go on this weekend. You have FP1, which basically you can just chuck in the bin because that's all car setup and they're not going as fast as they want. Then coming into FP2, Mercedes absolutely dominated, with Lando Norris sprinkling in a bit of his pace as well. And you might think, okay, Mercedes, easy peasy, you know, cooler temperatures, maybe that's why they looked a bit better. That's exactly what we thought, because FP3 then increased temperatures, the race was going to be even hotter than that as well, and the Mercedes didn't fall off a cliff, but Ferraris came right back into it. So now I'm thinking, okay, Mercedes definitely worked better when it was cooler, but Ferrari were coming back into it. And as we've seen in FP2 and for FP3 as well, Lando Norris looked pretty confident in that McLaren, and then qualifying just threw an absolute bombshell into the entire thing. I just can't believe how crazy qualifying was. Q3, the biggest surprise probably have to be Carlos Sainz getting knocked out. He was really not happy with the whole situation. And then I think also P20 Pierre Gasly, I don't think we were expecting him to be that bad. Then in Q2, nothing really crazy happened. Of course, Yuki Tsunoda, it didn't matter too much if he got knocked out because he had a 10th-place grip penalty anyway. And then into Q1. I just don't know where even to start. I mean, let's start off with the good news for any George Russell fans out there. So for the 5 people watching, no, I'm sorry. I'm sure he's got more fans than that. He took the pole position heading into the race, and it just looked so good for Mercedes. Again, why couldn't they just show this in FP3? F1 Fantasy got so screwed over because of that FP3, and it is killing me. So, George Russell gets pole, Max Verstappen second, Oscar Piastri third. 3 different teams all set up in the top 3 coming into the race. Absolute beautiful scenes. Kimi Antonelli P4 looking like he can produce a good showing this weekend as well. And then you might be thinking, where the hell's Lando Norris? He looked like he was the top dog for FP2 and FP3. Well, he was P7. He completely screwed up both of his laps, and he buckled under the pressure yet again. I don't know how long it's going to take for Lando to not buckle under this pressure, but if he carries on this way, he's going to give away the championship very, very soon. You also had Charles Leclerc P8. Again, he screwed up his lap. So Ferraris then ended P5 and P8, going straight back to what they look like more in FP2. I just can't believe it. If there's one group of practice sessions you should never look out for, it's Canada, because apparently they just never work out the way they're supposed to, no matter. There has to be a curse around Canada for this. But with this all said and done, it meant that we had a brilliant race lined up for the Sunday. Could Mercedes keep that race pace coming into Sunday, which is something they've struggled for a lot? Max Verstappen looking for a win to get his name back into the championship a little bit more. Oscar Piastri could push further up as well. All would be answered. And my oh my, what a race it was. Well, I say what a race. The first half was an absolute snooze fest, and this reminded me a lot of Imola, where we're obviously on those softer compounder tyres, and it was just absolutely impossible to overtake if you did not have a tyre advantage to the person in front of you. So we saw, especially in the top 10, bar Antonelli getting past Piastri right at the start, nothing much changed until the pit stops came around. But luckily, because we had some cars starting on the medium, some cars starting on the hards, different strategies again proves for good overtakes. Now, when the first pack of the drivers, especially from the top 10, started pitting, you had the likes of Hamilton being stuck in the midfield, having to make some overtakes. That was great to watch. You had Fernando Alonso basically going all the way to the back of the grid, having to overtake everyone. Again, very fun to watch, lots of overtakes. You had George Russell trying to make his way past Leclerc and Norris. So there was drama. The likes of the ones I just mentioned with Hamilton and Alonso, great fun to watch, but there wasn't really any pressure to it because all of these drivers they were overtaking would have had to pit, and it kind of really meant nothing, these overtakes. Of course, you had to get them done, but we knew come everyone pitting that it would go back to exactly where it had been before. Only with Norris and Leclerc getting past Alonso and Hamilton, but that was about it. So I have to say, for this part of the race as well, great fun, of course, for watching some overtakes. I love seeing overtakes happen. But again, it wasn't the most interesting thing because it still looked like, okay, we know who's going to end up in P1, P2, P3 for now. Not much drama was happening for the race. And honestly, it would stay this way until around lap 45. Now, lap 45, Gasly and Stroll had a bit of a ding-dong battle. That is one thing I will miss about Lance Stroll if he does ever leave the sport for whatever reason, although he probably won't, which is just so annoying considering how much rumours there are about that Aston Martin seat. Basically, Pierre Gasly just got very much pushed wide. Luckily, they didn't actually properly collide. Gasly just had to cut the chicane at the end of the lap. And then also we saw quite a few cars dropping off. So while this was happening, Alex Albon a few laps later had issues with his car. Now, he had been struggling with power unit issues throughout the race, so this wasn't completely unheard of up to this point. We also then had Liam Lawson, which was a bit more of a surprise, also having a DNF, which was again so annoying for F1 Fantasy because that's a -20 we had to hold. So painful. But while all of these issues were taking place, this is when the race started to ramp up, because what I had not been telling you was Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc not really, it just Ferrari had left him way too long on those hards. They had pitted onto their final set of hards and they had a tyre advantage to the rest of the field. What I've been talking to you about this entire video, tyre bloody advantages. And they were creeping up on the top three. Now, the top three weren't pulling away absolutely incredibly. So it got to a point around lap 54 where you had George Russell, Max Verstappen, Antonelli, Oscar Piastri all covered by around 4 seconds. And if Oscar Piastri could just get past the Mercedes, then it was game on for potentially even fighting Verstappen or even Russell. But that wasn't happening. Again, it is quite hard to overtake around Canada. You have to have a big tyre advantage, and even those few laps of a tyre advantage in a McLaren just wasn't enough, and he was really struggling to get past Antonelli and come to the point where he basically overcooked his tyres a little bit. It now meant Lando Norris was right behind him as well, and he looked quick. Lando Norris just could not get the overtake done before Oscar Piastri then got DRS on Antonelli. But even with DRS to Antonelli, Lando looked like he was going to get the move done. And then this happened.
Go to turn one! No, he's ripped off the front wing! The McLarens collide!
Completely Lando Norris's fault. The move was never there, and he also said after the race that it was his fault. But the championship is just slipping further and further away from him. And it's just such a shame to see, especially if you had him in F1 Fantasy like me. I had him 2 times just because of the practice results. What a donut. But it makes it so much more annoying considering when you look into where they were coming up to starting a new lap. If Lando just swung it round the outside, it's not like turn 1 you can't get a move round the outside, because you come in, Oscar would have been here, Lando would have been here, round the outside, and then guess what? Coming into turn 2, Lando would have had the inside, he would have got the move stuck. It started to look like he was getting completely desperate to make this move for the championship, and he just lost all composure in his head. Because no doubt in my mind, with how many laps Lando had left. He had a few more laps of the race. No doubt in my mind, if Lando got past Oscar, he would have got past Antonelli as well for P3, and that would have been a brilliant recovery to, yes, not winning the race, but getting a good haul of points on your championship rival. And just like that, he hadn't got it done. Now, of course, I will say, because of this whole situation, Kimi Antonelli actually kept his P3, first podium for him, which I mentioned at the start. I'm very happy for him, very much did deserve the driver of the day, but just Lando. When is he ever going to learn? But after all of this craziness, that was the race finish, with George Russell P1, Max Verstappen P2, and Antonelli P3. Oscar Piastri still able to finish a race in P4, all under safety car conditions. There was a little bit of drama with the safety car. Russell broke quite a lot. Max Verstappen had to then brake. There was a whole drama of Red Bull appealing, he broke too much. Mercedes were like, why was Verstappen so close to him? Comment down below, how do you feel about it? Because the FIA decided that it was unworthy of a penalty, so George Russell did keep his win. But wow, what a race. And you know what? Now let's get into the final part of the video, my rankings. So now I'm going to try to do a race review of every race, and we're going to start off with Canada as the first ranking. And like I mentioned, it's really nice to do these race reviews because F1 Fantasy can really push you from not enjoying the race, especially when it was a half decent race. And for me, that's exactly what happened, because when you look back at the race, it was a solid 7 out of 10. Now, the pros to it were, there was plenty of overtakes. Now, the overtakes didn't really mean a lot of the times, but there were lots of overtakes with a lot of different strategies. Good racing happened. A new race winner for this season, George Russell. Antonelli first podium, also brilliant. Drama for the championship, another tick. However, the first half of the race was a snore fest, so it can't be any more than a 7. So let's see what Austria can do, if it can top it or go below it. I actually think it will top it. Austria normally tends to be an absolutely brilliant race, so we'll see. However, that is it from me. I hope you enjoyed this weekend of racing. I know if you did have Norris and F1 Fantasy, try not to think about it too much. We've got a week off to then reconsider what we can do with F1 Fantasy. Do we now bring in Mercedes? Do we go back to Piastri? Do we look to Verstappen, who's normally good at Austria? There's a lot of questions to be asked, which I will be covering in the next week on FanAmp and on this channel. But as always, everyone, take care, enjoy your day, enjoy the rest of your week. Like and subscribe if you like what you saw, and see you all later.